Hello and welcome. This is Steve Anderson with lunawebs.com. I'm here to talk about your best friends in Excel. Today your best friends are vlookups and pivot tables. Now would be a good time to download the practice workbook if you haven't already. And let's begin. Now the first thing we're going to need to do is autofit these columns. You'll notice they're all scrunched together. Sometimes data can look like that when you export it from the database. So we're going to hover between the two column headers, between A and B, until your cursor looks like a double black arrow. You're going to double click, and that'll auto-fit the column. Now an easier way to do this is to click the select all button here, and then hover between the two columns, double click, and that will auto-fit all of your columns. Let's do that in the other spreadsheet we're going to be working with, customer orders. Same thing, select all, hover between the two columns, double click, and now we have everything auto-fitted. So we're going to start out with these two sheets, employee calls and customer orders. What we want is to combine some information from both of these to get the information that we're looking for, to find out what's going on with our sales and with the company. This is all made up information, but kind of an example of what it may look like. Now we're going to pull from employee calls. Now the important thing to remember is that between these two sheets we have something in common, the order number. We have an order number here, and in customer orders we have an order number in employee calls. So we're going to take that order number and we're going to find the order amount and pull it over to customer orders. And we do that with a vlookup. So before we do our vlookup, we want to make sure that this column D that we're pulling from is sorted. So let's highlight column D by clicking on the header there, and then we're going to say sort and filter, smallest to largest, and then we're going to expand the selection, and that just means it's going to sort all of these columns as well to keep our rows together. So everything's sorted now. We're going to call this one order totals. And you hotshots at home who have used Excel quite a bit may already know how to do a VLOOKUP and type in the formula. Another easy way to do it is to just click on the insert function button, and here it'll give you a list of commonly used functions. If you don't see VLOOKUP in this list, you just type VLOOKUP in the search up here, and it'll come up. Say OK. Now the first thing you need in a VLOOKUP is a value to look up, and we're going to be looking up the order number. So you can either type in or click on cell D2. I'll put that in there for you. The table array refers to the columns and rows that you're searching for your data in. And right now we're going to search in the employee calls tab, and we're going to search in rows A through C. Because what's happening is we're telling Excel, look for the order number in column A, and when you find it, give us what is in column C. And the way we refer to column C is we count. So we've got 3 columns. Column C is the third. See number 3. And then finally in range lookup we're going to say false, because range lookup gives you the closest match, and we want an exact match. So we'll say false and say OK. So here's our number, $27.81. And you'll notice up in the formula bar here we have the full formula to give us that number. We want to drag that down to these other cells. In order to do that, you hover over the lower right hand corner of the cell, just click and drag. An easier way to do this is to hover over the right hand corner of the cell again, and then double click. That will pull the formula down to all the adjacent cells. Okay, we also want to know, we've got the order totals now, we also want to know who placed these orders or who made these sales. So we're going to say, we know in this other tab we have the employee ID number. So we're going to pull that first. So employee ID. And we're going to be using the same number, the order number, so we don't have to resort anything. Let's just go ahead and do the VLOOKUP. So we say insert function, VLOOKUP. Our lookup value is again D2. We're going to look again in our table array in employee calls, and this time we're going to go from column A clear to column D. Highlight that whole thing. And this time we're looking for the 4th column. Again, false. For the range lookup, we want an exact match. Hit enter. Here's our number. Hover over the bottom right hand corner of the cell and double click to drag down your formula. And now you're probably thinking, okay, the employee ID number, unless I've memorized all the employee ID numbers and who they go with, this isn't going to be very helpful. So we need to know the names of these employees. So now we go to our third tab, the Employees tab. This has the employee names. Before we pull these names over, however, you'll notice that they're in two separate columns. We want them to be in one. So we're going to use the concatenate function. We're going to go off on a little tangent here for a moment. Let's see, call this employee name. And to do concatenate, we click on the function button again, insert function. And if it's not in your list of commonly used functions, you can just type in concat, search for it, and there it is, concatenate. First, we're going to say we want cell B2. The second value in this string is actually going to be a space, and so to do that, you do the double quote, space, double quote, or you can just do space and go to the next line and it'll put the double quotes in for you. And then text number 3 will be C2. Hit OK. We've got Tom Brown. Let's drag that down. Barney Brown, Shelley Brown. It's a family company. And before we pull this information back over, while this is all still highlighted, I'm actually going to change the value of the cell. You'll notice that it says Tom Brown, but up in the actual value of the cell in the formula bar, it shows the formula still. We want the value to be the name. So we're going to do, while this is all highlighted, we're going to say Control C to copy and then Control V to paste. And you'll notice we have this little clipboard that comes up that gives us our paste options. We're going to change this to values only. Hit enter. Now you'll see that the value of the cell is the name. Okay. Now we're ready to do our final VLOOKUP. Employee name. And before we do it, we're going to need to sort it by sort this worksheet by employee ID number. So we'll highlight column F, sort and filter, smallest to largest, expand the selection. Now we're ready to go. So insert function button. And vlookup is in our list of recently used functions. Say OK. The lookup value will be F2. The employee ID number. Our table array this time will be in the Employees tab. We're going to select columns A to D because we're looking for the employee number in column A, and we're going to say give us whatever is in column D once you find the employee number. So that will be the fourth column. Again, false for the range lookup. We want an exact match. Hit enter. Tom Brown. Double click, and here's all of our names. And again, let's change the values of these to the names, to what's being displayed. So we're going to highlight all three of these columns. Do the copy and Control V to paste. Another way to do this is to highlight the area, or to click in the first cell, the area, and right click and say paste special. But we're just doing the copy and paste, and we go to the clipboard to change it to values only. Hit enter, and now you can see that we have all of our values. Okay, so now we have all of our information. So what does it mean? What do we do with it? How do we make sense of all this? A quick way to get any question answered about your raw data is to put it in a pivot table. So to do a pivot table, we're going to highlight from column A to G, highlight all this information. I'm going to go to the Insert tab, say Pivot Table, and it's already got our range selected from, it shows the tab name with column A to G, everything selected, and it's going to it's going to create a new worksheet for us. So we're going to say OK, and here's our pivot table. Now let's say the first question you have is, okay, I want to know, out of all these customers, who placed the highest amount in the sales? Who's given us the most money? So we're going to drag, and you'll notice these are all of our header, the whole header row actually. We're going to drag the customer header down to row labels. Let's see, we've got all of our names here, and there's a drop-down menu. You can filter or sort or take people out if you want, if you don't want to know, if you're not interested in what He-Man is doing, or if you only want to know certain people, you can do that too. Okay, so then we're going to go to the order totals and drag that into the values field. The default will be to show you a count of the orders. Everybody placed 5 orders. We want to know who placed the highest amount. So we're going to double click on this, and then it'll give us a few different options. We can actually do a sum instead of a count. And you notice you can do averages or all types of things, but we're looking for the sum, who did the most. So we're going to highlight all this. We're going to go back to the home tab, and we're going to say sort and filter, this time from largest to smallest. Automatically expanded the selection. It looks like 3030 placed the most. Okay, what about our employees? Let's drag this stuff, put it back where it came from, and instead we now want to know out of our employees who placed the highest amount in sales, who took the most calls, did the most sales, whatever the case may be for your company. So we're going to grab the employee name, put that in row labels, and then we're going to go again with the order totals in the values. Double click to change it to the sum. Drag this down. Sort largest to smallest. Bronco, way to go Bronco! Look at all those sales. But what about who did the most? Who did the highest number of orders? Again, we're going to double click. We're going to change it back to count. See who did the most orders. Bruce Brown did the most. Way to go, Bruce. And that is how you do a pivot table. Thank you again to everybody who listened today. This is Steve Anderson with lunawebs.com. You're listening to Your Best Friends in Excel with VLOOKUPs and pivot tables.